There we
Oh,
go.
yes.
There he is. He's here.
For some reason, my initial one got kicked out. Probably Jim working his magic on this Friday morning.
No way, baby. It's you messing with that camera is what it is.
No. How you doing?
Be great. Yeah. Love to be when we can see you. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll work
Uh,
on that.
Alec Lasley joining us. He is on assignment down in New Orleans as he's heading off to actually a friend's bachelor party. But I forced him to be here today, and they had started last night, so that's why. It's going to be a little fun. It's going to be more fun. I was hoping we could have some vignettes. You'd have a little taste of NOLA for us, man. A little vignette here in the morning.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's tomorrow's plans. We have a Gator tour happening here in about 30 minutes. So
Get that
you get
camera
me
up, baby.
you get me before I go on to the Gators.
Yeah, Joe Dirt, man. A little Joe Dirt. Maybe you can. Well, you're already with someone, but maybe you want someone in your party can meet someone like the what was Fromm. What did the guy change his name to in that? Uh, oh my God, it was so funny. But the lady went to the Gator farm. Don't get your finger bitten off is a long story made short, I guess.
Yeah. Let's fingers crossed on that one. No pun
So
intended. But
is it one of those? Are you going to one of those places like that where they show you where the people were feeding the gators or something?
no. So we take a nice little boat over into kind of the Everglades area, the swampy area, and then towards the end of the ride, you're supposed to see some gators, and then I've been on it before. Most of the group hasn't, and then
Oh,
that's why I planned it. So at the end of it, you get a baby gator that they bring on the boat and let you hold it and obviously spend some time with the baby, but. No, I mean it's fun. It's obviously not something that you typically see in the Midwest, so it's a nice
no,
change of
it's
scenery, change of
definitely not.
pace.
Do you go out on one of those airboats?
Yep.
Oh man, and you flat across the Everglades on one of those air. Oh my God, that's the best part right there.
Yeah. Too bad I couldn't do the show from there. Right. That would have been a
That would have been
heck
a.
of a
I
scene.
just said, just go in circles, baby. Just fly that thing around in circles. There was some show that used to be on when I was a kid that would come on, and they're on one of the scenes. They're flat across the Everglades in one of those airboats, and it always just looks so cool.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely a fun time. I mean, we have good weather here too, so it should be good. It'll be hot and humid like it typically is down here, but still a fun time.
Golf, got a golf plannings in there as well. What's
Most of the group does not play a lot of golf, so that's not on the agenda. But we have some other fun things
that's funny.
planned for the weekend.
Well, it sounds good. It is and the reason you're able to do this is because it's a light weekend as far as the AAU circuit goes. Nothing scheduled um, as they prepare for next week's events, the Memorial Day Running Slam in Fort Wayne and the Nike EYBL event in Louisville. But this weekend, but recruiting's still going on. We've got the combine that is happening up in Chicago. Obviously, Trayce Jackson-Davis not able to participate in anything after getting COVID. And that only solidifies to me what I said a month ago on my tweet that I fully expect Race and Trayce to be back for Indiana. Now we're just waiting for the announcement.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think at this point, right, he's not going to be able to put into the time that he probably, wanted to, not only with the measurements, not only with the 5-on-5, but I think the biggest thing that he's now going to struggle with doing is obviously the individual team workouts. And that's a big part to not only what the combine is, but especially this time of the off season for a lot of the guys that do try to obviously make that jump into the NBA. And I think he's just not going to have the time to kind of get ready for that. Obviously, really hasn't been doing a lot of physical activity over the last 5 to 7 days to actually prepare for that. So at this point, I think it kind of shows that there's really not a whole lot he can do to kind of improve that draft stock. And at that point, he's probably going to end up returning, which, I think for him, who knows if that was the initial decision that he wanted to make. But I think at this point, there's just way too much question that's kind of going on in the background for him to actually fully be prepared to go out there and perform at his best. And so I think I agree with you. He does end up returning to Indiana. And obviously, you look at an Indiana team that's now kind of fully prepared to not only take on the Big Ten, but be a top 20, top 15 team in all of college basketball heading into next season.
Yeah, we can't make that determination for certain yet because it has not been announced, of course, but this has been my position the entire time. So now we look forward to, all right, if that ends up being the case, we can do a little prognosticating because since there's nothing else going on this weekend, if that ends up being the case, this Indiana team is going to be built pretty solidly. The only question still for me remains around shooting. But other than that, this is going to be a pretty good team. Defensively, they should be good, as good or not better. And offensively, still going to be better. But the shooting aspect is still a question mark.
Yeah, I think obviously that's the biggest question mark, and you lose your best 3-point shooter with Parker Stewart as well. A lot's going to be kind of handed to Miller Kopp and what he can do, how he can perform, not only with the ball in his hands, but off of any spot up opportunities. I think you will see some more not design plays, but maybe some more design schemes fit around Miller Kopp to be able to get him open. But I mean, you have assuming Xavier Johnson is fully back and playing at the level that he played to end the season. That's a playmaker that you didn't have for the first 2.5-3 months of the regular season, and then you throw in another guy like Jalen Hood-Schifino who's going to be able to take the ball off of the dribble and create some more opportunities. So all in all, you have a lot more play creators on the roster that you didn't have for this past season. And I think if Trayce Jackson-Davis comes back, right, that just opens up so much more offensively for the entire roster. But at the end of the day, I still think you're going to need, if Trayce does come back, you're still going to need a guy like Race Thompson to be able to step out and hit that outside shot at a higher level than he was able to do this past season, or else you're going to kind of be stuck in the same kind of offensive mold that Indiana was this year with kind of pounded into Trayce, get double teamed, kick it out, and potentially get some open shooters that way, which I don't think is going to be the best part for Indiana moving forward. So I think a lot is still going to kind of revolve around which of those options, whether even if it's Jordan Geronimo or Malik Reneau, which one of those guys are going to be able to kind of step out, open up the floor a little bit, and give Trayce Jackson-Davis, if he does come back, a little bit more room to operate there in the middle of the paint.
And, CJ Gunn is a guy that we don't talk about a lot. Don't know how his first year is going to translate, so there's no point in putting pressure on him to be that guy. He's potential. But also I think that Jalen Hood-Schifino is someone who's going to start, but also he's not going to score a ton of points, but he can score. Xavier Johnson obviously can score at the end of the season. He was bumping up to 18 points a game as your point guard, which is phenomenal. But I think the pressure will be relieved off of him. I think it's going to be relieved off of everybody, to be honest with you. I think the pressure is going to be relieved off of every position, including the wings, where you had Parker Stewart, Miller Kopp, who so much was hoping for, but it just didn't materialize. And I think that started to manifest itself worse as the season went along. But I think that this team is set up to relieve the pressure more on positions than last season was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this roster is going to be built a lot more towards what Mike Woodson really has kind of been looking for. You're going to have a lot more guys who can create off of the dribble, which is a huge thing, obviously, not only in basketball in general, but in college basketball especially. The more guys that you have that can kind of get into the paint, whether it's making a play for themselves or their teammates, Indiana just has not had that on the wing on the perimeter. And you're going to get that. And, I see the comment there. Yeah, Tamar Bates is going to play a big role in that because he's a guy who showcased at times this season the ability to kind of get his own shot, create for himself. But all in all, I mean, I think the backcourt is still a huge question mark in my opinion, regardless of what Trayce Jackson-Davis does, just because you have a lot of guys who are going to need to step up who haven't really played those significant roles yet. And you also have a guy like Xavier Johnson, who obviously has had his ups and downs throughout his short Indiana tenure, both on and off the floor. So that if Xavier Johnson's able to play, able to stay on the floor, and able to play to the level that he did to end the season last year, that's going to take Indiana to a much different level, regardless of what Indiana does in most of those guys do around him. But at the end of the day, you're still going to need some shooting. You're still going to need Miller Kopp to take a huge step up in production, which I think you will do. And you're still going to need guys like Tamar Bates and like I mentioned before, obviously, Jordan Geronimo, Malik Reneau, even a guy like Trey Galloway to be able to really step up in their production, whether it is shooting or whether it's just creating there on the floor for Indiana.
Let's say Trayce Jackson-Davis comes back, which we both believe is going to be the case, and you have Race Thompson as well. What's Malik Reneau's role going to be?
I mean, you look at him, obviously a 5-star guy coming in, a guy who is going to be able to contribute to some point right away. But now you kind of take a step back, and he doesn't need to take on full responsibility and full offensive load that he probably would have to take a large part on if Trayce Jackson-Davis was ending up staying in the NBA draft. So he's a guy where you can kind of let him take the reins a little bit from a Race Thompson and Trayce Jackson-Davis and learn from them, not play 25, 30 minutes a game, and kind of learn his way into the college level, the college system that Mike Woodson wants to run. And I think it would be extremely beneficial, not only for him next year to be a lot more efficient because he doesn't have to force a lot, but just be a lot more efficient in his Indiana career because he's going to get that development and that opportunity to wait kind of just a little bit of extra time, learning from guys like Race Thompson and Trayce Jackson-Davis, who have obviously proved up to this point to contribute to any roster they're on at a very high level.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. This team is just solidly set across the board, and the second unit is going to be a lot better last year. Last year, we saw Coach Woodson implement substitution patterns that sometimes left you scratching your head. This will allow him to do that a little bit more if that is something he continues, because the talent on the bench has been raised substantially.
Yeah, I mean, it still comes back to what level of consistency they bring. That was the biggest thing with that unit last year, right? I mean, even Jordan Geronimo, who didn't prove to kind of play those consistent 15, 17 minutes a game that I think a lot of people thought he would play until late in the season, especially there in the last kind of 2 to 3 weeks of the actual season that he performed there. But it's going to come down to consistency, like I said. I mean, you have a lot of guys who have not proved that they can play at that level from game to game and even half to half yet. So where you do have a lot of options on the bench, you do have a lot of skill on the bench, it still comes down to whether or not they're going to be able to do it night in and night out. And I think that's going to be something that Mike Woodson's going to have to kind of play with and tinker with when it comes to his lineups still throughout, I would say, the first half of the season, if not going into Big Ten play, just to get that consistency from a lot of these guys who, like I said, and like you've said before, just have not been in that moment yet.